Hey everybody, thank you for joining me with the continuation of the WWF Hasbro review videos. We are finally in double digits, series 10. That means after this series, we're only looking at one more series before the conclusion of the Hasbro run. But as a matter of fact, series 11 will not be the last video we look at because I am going to do one more follow-up video either directly after series 11 or shortly thereafter, where we're going to look at both prototypes and mail-away figures as well. So in Series 10, we are looking at 8 additional figures. Some of them are just simple repaints from previous lines, but you do have a group of tag team members here. You know, one tag team is, obviously this is during their single run, but I'm going to talk about them probably, probably as a pair due to the fact that, they were a long-standing and successful tag team. So the first figure I do want to look at, and again, this is the Series 10, the third release in 1994. First one I would like to look at are the tag teams of Samu and Fatu, the Head Shrinkers. So I think I like, well, I'm going to go with this one first. I like this one, trying to think. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Samu figure first. I think I enjoy Samu more, just because I kind of like the way that he kind of sticks his tongue out like that. So I believe Samu is the one whose father was Afa. Now, Afa and Sika, obviously, the Wild Samoans, a very popular tag team in the 1980s, especially the early half of the 1980s. And the whole NOE family are just like, again, when it comes to wrestling families, they are the number one, wrestling family. They had, the Wild Samoans back in the day. You had the Head Shrinkers, who actually wrestled under the moniker of the New Samoans, or something very similar to it, under several promotions. WCCW, WCW, AWA, probably NWA as well. Probably little Mid-South, or I don't know if they're Mid-South, but that's just different promotions. And of course, when they came into WWF, they were rebranded as the Head Shrinkers. So I think the whole gimmick had to deal with something being that Samoans are supposed to be hard-headed or whatnot. So when you came up with the Samoans, it's like anytime they got into a wrestling match with somebody, someone would try to headbutt them, they would basically hurt themselves because the Head Shrinkers are so hard-headed and whatnot. It's like hitting, butt-heading a brick or, a slab of steel or something, And again, I like the Samu figure a little bit better than Fatu, simply because I like the little facial expression on the figure. It's pretty awesome. So Samu himself comes with Samu Shocker. This is the Samu figure. What I've talked about when it comes to the Head Shrinkers as a tag team, yeah, I throw in these little customs as well. You'll find a whole slew of customs when I do my loose figures. Even though the Head Shrinkers are very top heavy and they come with fused legs, I don't think I've ever had a problem with these figures falling over. And I mention it all the time because I think it's important. When you look at figures like the Series 2 Rockers, I mean, top or bottom, they're very lightweight figures, right? Now, even there's some weight, you could actually feel the weight in the legs, so you know that they're a little bit heavier than what you get out of the Rockers. That kind of feel like there's just open space in there. But the top of the body from the waist up is so much heavier than, just that part is heavier than the whole Rockers, probably both Rocker figures combined. And, you never worry about them tipping over. So these are, pretty solid figures. Nobody likes fused legs. But in this particular case, it's okay. I'm not going to complain about it. The overall figure looks great. I think Head Shrinkers are probably my fourth favorite tag team out of the Hasbro action figure line. I said before, Nasty Boys are probably number one, followed by Legion of Doom, and then the Steiner Brothers. And then we got, the Head Shrinkers, who I think are solid figures all around. So, in trying to think what some more that I remember. Obviously, the head shrinkers were always beefing with like natural disasters, and in fact, they actually helped Money Incorporated, $1 Million Man IRS, defeat natural disasters for their title belts. And later on, the head shrinkers, they actually did become, because they started off as heels and then they went babyface, I think in around 93, 1994. And in 94, they did battle with the Quebecs. The only thing I remember from the Quebecs is John Rougeau's Mountie. I don't remember who the other guy was. Sorry. I guess we could look it up and find out, but I think that was the first time, and I'm pretty sure that was the only time. I could be wrong, but that they did become heavyweight champions. Now, I'm trying to think, because I think that they lost their titles. I read about this a while back. I think they dropped the titles to Shawn Michaels and Diesel. But, like, they defended their titles against, I don't know, X tag team, 1 week, and nobody talked about, hey, they were no longer tag team champions. And I believe it was because Fatu, and again, whether you talk about Wild Samoans or you talk about the head shrinkers, with this particular family, I always get the names mixed up, so I could be saying it backwards, but for sake of argument, I think Fatu got sick or was injured, and so he kind of had to step away from WWF. And so, off air, the head shrinkers dropped their belt to the tag team of Shawn Michaels and Diesel. Fatu is just, again, another really awesome figure. Really, the only major difference between the pair is the simple fact that one has his mouth open, tongue out. Well, they both have their mouth open, so tongue out or, showing teeth and whatnot. Both are really beautiful figures. Kind of interesting, and this is what kind of bothers me. I like to know when, certain people are related. I think that's pretty awesome. And when they came in around 92, early 93 possibly, they entered around the same time Yokozuna did. They rebranded Rodney Inoue as Yokozuna. They brought in another Inoue family for the head shrinkers. Made no mention that these families were, that these wrestlers were intertwined by blood. But awesome figures. Again, if you want the tag teams from Hasbro, I think that these are must-haves. At least in my opinion, they're must-haves. They're pretty incredible pieces. Once upon a time, these pair of figures loose would probably set you back about $80. Today, maybe $40. And it sucks because, again, I was buying these things when everyone was buying them, so I was always paying up for these figures. And I have so many duplicates that when I try to sell them, I try to sell them based on what they were selling for when I first started collecting them. And you're never going to get your money's worth out of it. And I don't feel like taking a loss. So I'm just going to have to hold on to a big bundle of these figures. The head shrinkers. So where are we at? We're at 8 minutes, 8.5 minutes. And again, this video is going to go a little bit faster simply because there's 10 guys. So I want to try and get this down to about 30, 35 minutes. Another pair of tag team wrestlers. In fact, let me put these here. Try to keep these guys in order as much as I can. So, I'm going to move on to Marty Jannetty. So, when we look at Shawn Michaels, when we look at Marty Jannetty, I'm going to probably keep them intertwined, as one. So, when I talk about one, I'm going to basically be talking about the other as well. So, Marty Jannetty, again, released in 1991 in Series 2 with the Rockers tag team set. Average figure to below average, top 10 worst. Was it a horrible figure? Not really, but with the fused legs, it kind of ruined it for me. In Series 10, when they gave Marty Jannetty his singles gear, this is easily one of the best figures of the entire line. Probably a top 20, top 25 action figure. Incredibly awesome to work with. And Marty Jannetty, so he and Shawn Michaels, as we know, the Midnight Rockers started around 1985. Quite possibly the greatest tag team of all time. They were two-time AWA champions, huge fan favorites. In Series 7, I talked about this with Shawn Michaels. So in 88 or early 89, I think it was 1988, they were signed by the WWF, but they were in a bar fight and basically kicked out immediately. So Vince McMahon, seeing the error of his ways, knowing what these guys could bring to the table, rehired them, and from 88 to about 91, they were prevalent in the WWF. So it's been said that they were never tag team champions in WWF, but that's not exactly 100% accurate. Again, so many of these stories with so many of these figures, etc., have asterisks next to it. So in this particular case, Jim Neidhart of the Hart Foundation had his contract expiring and he was renegotiating. So the Rockers actually defeated the Hart Foundation for their tag team titles. But Jim Neidhart, he negotiated a new contract, and so the Rockers were never officially... actually, I may have had the stories backwards. It may have happened to the Rockers and not the Head Shrinkers, where they lost their titles. Or it could have happened to both of them. Again, we're talking something that happened 30 years ago. It's really hard to keep track of all the stories. So, Jim Neidhart renegotiated with the Hart Foundation. He got a new contract. The Hart Foundation didn't want to drop their titles. Who would? And basically, the Rockers were stripped of the title. And even though these were definitely the same story as the Head Shrinkers I just gave. So it may have been the Rockers I'm thinking of, not the Head Shrinkers. Series 10. So they fought the next week, and no mention of them winning the belts. To be honest, I think that's why Shawn Michaels was like such an asshole to Bret Hart. And, Bret Hart talked about this on one of his podcasts about how, hey man, I'm a professional, I'll never hurt you in ring. Whatever gripes we have out of the ring, it's never going to transpire into the ring. If I have to drop this belt to you, I will. And Shawn Michaels made some smart-ass comment like, I wouldn't do the same for you. I now kind of understand where Shawn Michaels is coming from, why he's got this pet peeve against Bret Hart. And I think it all started with the fact that, he was a tag team champion with Mark Jannetty and will never be known as a tag team champion that route because they didn't want to give up their belts. When these guys, I think they beat them in an untelevised match, and I think that's why they were able to play it off like Hart Foundation were still champions. But Marty Jannetty, he worked with, I believe it was the 1-2-3 Kid in the mid-90s, 94, 95, maybe, I don't know. But he did win a tag team battle with 1-2-3 Kid at one point, and he was also a one-time Intercontinental Champion. I'm trying to think who he defeated. Off the top of my head. It's driving me nuts. I can't think of it, but he did win an Intercontinental Championship. He's one of those guys like the Mountie who I don't think many people even realize were Intercontinental Champions because they weren't like top brand names and they probably didn't have the belts for too long of a period. So, that hurt his credibility. Later on, moving over to WCW, and he was more of a jobber. To me, Marty Jannetty is one of the greatest athletes I've ever seen. The Rockers, as a tandem, were the tag team. When you think of tag team, that's it. The way that they moved in and out of the ring together in tandem, it was just such a thing of beauty. Also, I kind of looked it up before I made this video. I knew as a kid I watched this event happen on TV, but I never knew what year it happened. Because Nope, they came in 91, so it matches up. So in 1991, we had Series 2 release, which included a 2-pack of Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels. And that's where... so you saw those released in 92, and then around December of 1991, I keep saying 92, and releases 90, Series 2 was released in 91, and then the event that happened in 1991, December of 91, which featured this man, Shawn Michaels, turn on his tag team partner. I mean, they were mega superstars in the AWA's tag teams. You know, they highlighted so many pay-per-views, like WrestleManias and Royal Rumbles and house shows. Just a perfect tandem together. And I don't know if it was out of selfishness or whatnot, but, you know, he kind of like feigned interest in, you know, burying the hatchet with Mark Jannetty, and then gave him his little super kick, knocked him out. And this aired on an episode of Bruce Beefcake's Barbershop, and him throwing him through the barbershop window. And every time I talk about this story, you know, I kind of hurt, you know, I kind of die a little bit inside. Because even as a 6-year-old watching that, yeah, so December of 91, a couple months before my 7th birthday, you know, I felt like that was really happening. Like, he really went through the glass, and he was bleeding for real, and, like, you know, and realizing as an adult that it's staged and everything, it doesn't help. Every time I talk about it, if I go back and I watch that scene, either on a tape or on YouTube or something, I'm still going to feel that same kind of pain that I did as a kid. But Shawn Michaels, again, he went on to one of the greatest singles, being one of the greatest singles wrestlers of all time. What was it, like a 3-time Intercontinental Champion, 3-time Heavyweight Champion, European Champion, multiple Tag Team Champion, which included Tag Team bouts with Diesel as an example. And in Series 10, so here's the thing with Series 10. Series 10, Razor Ramon, and Series 10, Shawn Michaels, had their exact duplicate of the Series 7 figure re-released on Blue Card in Series 10. I don't have the re-releases on Blue Card. Will I get them? I will at some point, hopefully. That's the goal. But right now I'm trying to focus on original releases. So not only did you get the white pants and red Shawn Michaels, you also got the black vest, red trunks, Razor Ramon from Series 7, re-released in Series 10 on Blue Card. In addition, you also got a fully new release of Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon. With Shawn Michaels, you've got the black and silver pants variant, much more expensive, about $100, $125, meant probably get it $200 plus on as a single individual figure. For me, this is a number 4 best Hasbro figure of all time, just behind Bret Hart Series 8 number 3, Purple Ultimate Warrior, and Yokozuna at number 1. Absolutely amazing piece. So body type, tattoos, the head mold, you know, everything identical to the Series 7 release. Again, the only thing that was changed, I think Series 7 had silver as well on the sunglasses, if I recall correctly. Again, the only thing that changed is they swapped out the black for the white, or they swapped out white with black, and they swapped out the red with gray. That's the only change. But again, easily one of the greatest action figures. Not even just some from Hasbro, but just one of the greatest action figures, period. Heck, this time around, I didn't even mention his multiple Royal Rumble victories. And not just that he won multiple Royal Rumbles, but that fact that he won them back-to-back. And why do I got this backwards? Oh yeah, I do got it backwards. Stupid me. And it's not just that he won back, and he's like the only one right there alongside Hulk Hogan to do so. If anyone else in modern wrestling was able to win back-to-back, I don't know. I know there's plenty of guys that probably won 2 or 3 Rumbles, but I don't think any of them won back-to-back if I'm not mistaken. Alright. So kind of moving on and talking about that Razor Ramon figure. Here is the brand new release in Series 10. Once again, we had black vest, red trunks in Series 7, which was, again, that same figure was re-released on Blue Card. But in In addition to that re-release, you also had the brand new release of the purple Razor Ramon. Because we pretty much talked a lot about this character in the Series 7 release, there's not so much I'm going to be talking about in this release. Backtrack. Shawn Michaels came with the Conceited Crunch. I think that was the same from Series 7. And Mario Jannetty has the Jannetty Jam. Razor Ramon comes with the Razor Rage. Identical figure, except for a new paint scheme. And, does that say European? No, that says Hardcore. Hardcore belt. So, again, European champion, one of the greatest Intercontinental champions. I think it was a 4-time Intercontinental champion. Legendary ladder matches with Shawn Michaels. You know, a founding member of the NWO in WCW. The man had the opportunity to win multiple heavyweight championships during his WWF heyday. But alcohol abuse basically made that a non-starter, as he was simply a character that's a person that couldn't be trusted. And it's sad because he's such a beloved character all around. And his passing last year was demoralizing. I mean, I think the man was like 60 years old. So, to me, I still feel like that's a relatively young age. You know, the average human lives to be, what, 75? So, I feel like if you can't make it to 75 or longer, it's just, I don't want to call it a waste of a life, but, you know, you're dying way too soon, in my opinion. I mean, he had another 15, 20 years easy in him. I don't know if it was, you know, his substance abuse that kind of contributed or whatnot, but I'm sure it did to some extent. Razor Ramon, again, the Razor Ray is just simply another one of those. Sometimes when you swip the body, the arm kind of punches inward. Now, this ain't super tight, so that might explain why it doesn't do that, but occasionally you'll get it working for you. There we go. Razor Ramon. Alright, next one up. One of the most perfect Hasbro figures of all time. There is a seller in the UK that has the legitimate, like, painted on body that I covet. But man, you're looking at $40-some for the figure, plus another $40 or close to it for shipping. I'm like, I can't do it. But who am I talking about? The Giant Gonzalez. One of the most hated wrestlers because they didn't think that he was a legitimate wrestler, and he may not have been. So when I did my review of El Gigante during the WCW, review videos, I mentioned that Jorge Gonzalez was actually drafted by the Atlanta Hawks, and he didn't make the team. So, simply put, you have owner Ted Turner, owner of the Atlanta Hawks. You got this giant 7'7" man, 8 feet tall. How do I utilize this man to my benefit? Around 1988, 89, Jim Crockett Promotions, they sold their company to Ted Turner, who just simplified it to World Championship Wrestling. So in 1990, here comes El Gigante. They put him in this weird looking spacesuit type of deal. I mean, I think the action figure looks pretty cool. Don't get me wrong. Horrible fighting pose. Is he one of my favorites from the WCW Galoob line? Yes, he is. But again, it's based on look and appearance. But as far as playability, one of the absolute worst. But the Giant Gonzalez in WWF with the Series 10 release, a perfect all-around figure. Because there's so many greats, I mean, he's definitely my top 10. He has to be. At one point, I think he would have been in like a top 3, top 4. But with all the additional figures, I eventually pushed him back. I think he's like number 6, 7, 8, somewhere in that line. Just an absolute perfect figure. Best fighting pose. Great looking figure. I talked about that seller in the UK. Like I said, this one, it just looks like he has, you know, fur on the shoulder pads and, you know, the groin area and knee pads, whatnot. But he doesn't have, like, the built-on chest clothing and pants and stuff. That seller actually created one that looks just like it, so it looks like the actual wrestler. And he looks like a freaking Sasquatch in the face and everything. It's scary as heck looking. I love the figure. I'm dying to get it. But, again, due to shipping costs and all that, $80 for it. It's a fantastic figure, but no. Maybe if I can start buying like a bunch of others, then it'll make sense to pay that extra shipping cost. But for now, I have to settle with what I have, and this is a perfect one. So the Giant Gonzalez, he comes with a giant jab. So he is like the Ultimate Warrior from Series 3 with these dual action features. You know, lift the left arm up, left foot comes up. Lift the right arm, right foot comes up. I don't understand how you get a jab out of that. Like Razor Ramon's, you know, twisting punch something. Or, you know, the Series 9 Ted DiBiase, Series 5 Hulk Hogan, etc. You know, with the arm punching motion. That could be, you know, a jab. But I don't know how stomping motion is a jab. So I don't understand how WWF or how Hasbro, how they named some of these features, these action features. But again, perfect all-around figure. Absolutely love the Giant Gonzalez. Man, when this man died, he died relatively poor. And, where was it? I used to know where he's from. I make these videos, I talk about the character, and then when I go back and talk about him later, I completely forget everything I had known before. I call it the Kelly Bundy syndrome. It's like your brain is filled with all this information, and then when you learn new information, you know, your brain's already at capacity, so you learn something new, and something else that you had known before is no longer memorized. So he wasn't from Guatemala. Shoot. Anyways, he went back to his hometown and basically retired poor. He died poor. Probably not as poor as he had been, but he wasn't hugely successful. I just watched this 93 Battle Royal recently, and within like 2 minutes, you had like 6 guys teaming up on this guy and throwing him out. It's a Battle Royal. You're not going to have as many guys in there, you know, as long as you could for a Royal Rumble. I get it. But when you see the Giant Gonzalez, there's certain characters, certain big guys you just love to watch, and you want to see them battle for as long as possible. I'm talking about guys like Yokozuna, like Andre the Giant, King Kong Bundy, the Giant Gonzalez, you know, big hefty guys like that. Or they're either hefty or they're just super tall. Those type of guys. And when you see them knocked out within a reasonable amount of time, who was it? Andre the Giant during the 1989 Royal Rumble comes in at number 3. It's like, how often do you see a man of that stature come in so early into the Rumble? You don't see a Hulk Hogan or Ultimate Warrior type come in. You see them come in like 22, 27, something like that, you know. And, you know, he came in and he started eliminating a bunch of guys, and then eventually Jake Roberts comes in with this snake, and then Andre the Giant jumps over the ropes and eliminates himself. So I don't like seeing big guys gone so soon. You know, you want to see him come in and absolutely dominate. That is the Giant Gonzalez. The last 2 figures, and we're at 29 minutes, really, are the Bushwackers. In all honesty, I don't even know a whole lot about the Bushwackers. Sheep herders in the early wrestling days, you know, absolute grapplers just alongside Ted DiBiase and Duggan, you know. Again, more watered down version when you get to WWF. So the first one we're looking at is Butch of the Bushwackers. Now, the Bushwackers were released on Tag Team in Series 2. So when you release them in Series 10, you get the exact same figures, but they're on single card. They come with accessories, and you change the paint scheme. In addition, number 4, you would notice that this character here is Butch of the Bushwackers. And pay attention to the fighting pose, because in Series 2, this exact same figure was Luke. And whether you're looking at Luke from Series 2 or Butch from Series 1 or from Series 10, this right here, it's, again, not really a playable figure, not really. It's just, it looks good. I just, just sitting there playing with the action is fun. To me, that's the only the only value of this figure, because, again, it's not a really fun playable figure. And you can't really, like, raise one arm and then raise the other to, like, line them up. I mean, at some point, the way that the feature is set up, one arm is always going to be lower than the other. So, looks great. Again, this particular body type of the Bushwackers are always going to be the more expensive version. The Luke Series 2 with this is more expensive than the Butch Series 2. This Series 10 Butch is more expensive than the Luke version. So, Bushwackers, again, what they used to do, come down the ring, come down the aisle, doing their little Bushwhacker dance, whatever. They'd grab people, start licking their face and everything. Disgusting, funny, sure. Again, by today's standards, we're looking at assault right there. Take COVID out of it. I mean, that's just assault, period. I mean, you don't just walk up to somebody and lick their face, right? But people got such a kick out of these guys back in the day. Bushwhackers are always infamous for entering Royal Rumbles, and it's like, enter the ring. Here, let me grab you by the back of the neck. Let me walk you across the other side of the ring. Throw you over. Bam. 2 seconds, you're in and out. To me, I love these guys as kids. As a kid, they were so much fun. As an adult, I think they are absolutely horrendous. I do not find the Bushwhackers to be anywhere remotely close to being relevant. Again, I kind of compare them to Koko B. Ware in the sense that I love these guys as kids. As a kid, I don't want to keep saying kids. As a kid, I love them, but as an adult, I think they were not talented, wrestlers at all. And oddly enough, when you see them going against big guys like Natural Disasters, and you think, okay, these guys are going to crush them, basically grown man beating up a baby type of deal, they go in the ring, they hold their own. And it's like, why are you so good in these individual tag team matches, but when you're in like these big tournament style matches like Royal Rumbles, you're absolute garbage. It doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, I don't enjoy them as wrestlers. Not anymore, not as an adult. So Luke comes with the Down and Out Blaster. I think that's the same one from Series 2. And also from Series 2, Down Under Pounder from Butch. Alright, I looked at Butch. Down and Under Pounder for Butch. And now for Luke, Down and Out Blaster. Again, same thing. Same thing I just talked about. In Series 2, this pose figure was a Butch. In Series 10, it's a Luke. I don't know if I enjoy the fact that they swapped it. I mean, if they wanted to change the body types of the figures, they could have just made completely new action figures instead of reutilizing the exact same series from previously. Yeah, they gave them a new paint scheme, but really, who cares? I would prefer a whole new figure, whole new style, a whole new pose. And of course, 94. So, Desert Storm from 1992. It makes sense to kind of have it in that time period to kind of swap up your camo gear, kind of have like this desert camouflage going on. Series 10 figures, loose. I've seen them go for as high as $125 for the pair, maybe even higher. And loose, I've seen them sell for as little as $40. So, if you come with the original accessories and everything, you know, that definitely brings them up to the $150 rate, even as loose figures. So on card, you're probably looking at like $200 figures, if not more. If you could get them for $150, great. You know, jump on it. $200, I would say, is about asking price, the going rate. If you pay a little bit more, you know, I wouldn't say necessarily getting ripped off or anything. I mean, I think there are important figures to add to the collection, but I would try to hold out for like the $200 point. Bushwackers. Luckily, I just got, you know, when I just got the Black Pants variant of Shawn Michaels in from a UK seller, you know, several days ago. And with that figure, I was able to complete the Series 10 carded collection, which is awesome. So, yeah, that's it for now. I don't think I'm going to make Series 11 tonight or today. I might come back down here later on tonight, but I don't think so. So far today, I've knocked out Series 9 and Series 10, and that should be good. So just kind of because we're at 35 minutes average for these videos, I guess. The goal is, or originally the goal was to kind of knock out all of these review videos, you know, back to back. You know, earlier this year I knocked out all the LJN reviews, and then I got into the thumb wrestlers and the bendies, looked at every single one of those figures, and so once I got into like the AWA Rumcos, the WCW Galoobs, and the WWF Hasbros, the goal was to keep going and move on to like the Mattel Monsters, the Mattel Zombies, and the Mattel Mutants collection. Also look at the WCW Original San Francisco toy line. And probably finish it off with like the Mattel Retros or something. But recently I've been buying an absolute tonnage of custom Remco figures. So what I would like to do is take a break after this review and move on to a new tournament. So with the tournament videos, I don't think I'm going to be going back to back. Like if it takes 15 episodes, I'm not going to have, let's say, episode 250 to episode 264, you know, 15 episodes being all tournament videos. I might have other videos in between, but that's the plan for now. And I do plan on getting all the other reviews in before the year's over. So if you're interested in any particular line, or if you want me to do a particular line first, like if you want me to look at Mattel Retros next as opposed to holding them up for last, yeah, I can do that. Again, like I always say, guys, you know, these videos are for the viewers. So if you have a particular thing that you're interested in, want to know more about, let me know. I'll take care of it. But that's it for now, guys. Series 11 is going to be due 2 days after this video is posted, and we're looking at the last 7 figures of the line. And yeah, I forgot about the mailways and the prototype figures as well. So two more videos after this one then. Oh, that's it for now, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you in the comments and see you in the next video. Goodbye, everyone.